Let me take a few minutes to talk to you about a principle that I think is really helpful as you develop as a calligrapher. And I owe all of this to my good friend Don King, who's the only master calligrapher I know. I think he's probably the only master calligrapher within 100 miles of where I live. And he gave this to me. He calls it the hierarchy of guidelines. Now, if you've been to our website, which I assume you have, that's why you're watching this, then you may have printed out, or at least you've looked at, the guideline sheets that we provide for you for every font, for every alphabet. As you mature as a calligrapher, those guidelines will become more and more superfluous, more and more unnecessary. We provide them to you because, frankly, you and I both need them. But as we get better, we'll find we don't need quite so much help. Now, there's actually an order in which you can eliminate the guidelines. If you're looking at, for instance, your guidelines for the Chancery font, then we have given you a baseline, right? I'm going to draw, let me use the other side of the pen so it's even heavier. So we've given you a baseline. We've given you a header line at the top of the X height, which in our case I've made blue so that you can distinguish it a little bit. Then we've given you a descender line, usually done with a pencil. I don't know if you can pick that up on your digital copy or not. And an ascender line, done with a pencil. Not only that, if you're looking at our Chancery guideline, we've also given you, let me use a ruler here, we've also given you an italicization. That we concluded that that was actually a real word when we did Chancery. Do you remember that? We've actually given you an italicization angle. And all of those lines are very helpful when you're first getting started doing calligraphy. If this was for an uncial, then it wouldn't be italics. The lines would be strictly vertical. So we've given you lots of framework, lots of structure. And believe me, for those of us who are just getting started, or those of us who are not master calligraphers, all of those lines are very helpful. But what you want to be able to do as you progress and as you mature as a calligrapher is you want to be able to remove some of those aids one at a time. And Don says the first one that you can eliminate is the italics line. You can eventually be able to keep that angle no matter what letters you're writing, no matter what line you're writing on, you're going to keep that angle. So you could actually do this if you're interested digitally with the copy that we give to you. Come in here and erase some of those marks if you have the right program. The next thing that we get rid of is, I think quite predictable, is the ascender line and the descender line. Get rid of those lines altogether. At that point, you'd only have then two guidelines. It would be the baseline and the header. And as one of my other calligraphy teachers points out, these are, especially at this point in your career, these are guidelines. They're not rules. They're not law. They're not your master. You don't have to fear them and make sure that you stay in them. That's completely the wrong attitude. These are simply guidelines. They help you keep your calligraphy in a range. But as you mature, as you and I mature as calligraphers, our type begins to have more of a lilting, more of a dance, more of a freedom to it, and we'll violate these lines just a little bit, but always so that it looks good. Finally, when you get to the, not if, my goodness, there's no if here, folks. This is when you get to the point that you can do with almost no guidelines. Here's actually, again, what my friend Don King recommends, is that you actually come to the point where you have just one line. And you know what that is? According to Don, I haven't progressed to this level in my own calligraphy, but I will someday. And that is actually located at the middle of the letter. So if we were doing an uncial A, for instance, the guideline, which of course would be in very light pencil, not in a big blue mark like this, would be there. If we were doing a Chancery B, for instance, that line might be in the middle, so that we still keep it helps us keep our text level, which is one of the biggest challenges, and yet it allows a great deal of freedom. So there you have it. Start out with lots of crutches. As you mature as a calligrapher, you throw away one crutch, one guideline, and so on and so forth, till you're doing the whole thing with probably just one guideline right to the middle of the letter. So that's what I call, based on my good friend Don King, that's what I call the hierarchy of guidelines. And you're going to be good.